All right, we're going to give it about another minute here. I think there's some people that are going to be joining a little bit late here, so we're just going to give them one more minute. And I'm going to go around the horn right now and try to welcome some of you that are already on here. And starting with someone from the Bahamas, Romel. I hope you are nice and safe down in the Bahamas. Track and field athlete. Welcome, Romel. Looks like we have Dennis from Utah. Caroline, I see parent of a soccer player. Welcome. We have Jeff from Massachusetts, Reginald from New York, JR from Pennsylvania, Ike from Texas, James from Pennsylvania, Ayana from California, and somebody else just typed there. Looks like we have Gavin from Minnesota, Michael from Colorado. Welcome. Maurice, I see that you're a track athlete. Where are you joining from, Maurice? Christina from St. Louis, Missouri. Darius from Louisiana. Lauren, a softball player up in Canada. Maurice from Illinois. Where am I? Austin from Washington. Callie from Texas. Michael, Colorado. All right, we're going to have a big room tonight. This is going to be fun. Georgia from Illinois. Seth from Alabama. Brandon from Maryland. Another Brandon right afterwards from Arizona. All right, we're going to get started here in just a minute. So we'll see if there's any latecomers. We're about 40 deep right now. I'm expecting an even bigger room tonight. So it's going to give us another minute, see if anybody late is coming in. I'm going to go ahead and turn the cameras on. And I'm going to keep looking at my chat box here just to see if anybody else joins here in the next minute or so. Cody from Florida. Welcome, Cody. Thanks for hopping on tonight. All right, this is just going to keep growing. This is awesome. That's kind of what I expected. All over the U.S., Bahamas, Canada, every time zone. Another Floridian. Ian just joined. Welcome, Ian. Awesome. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I will try to welcome everybody as they come in if people are coming in late a little bit tonight, but we are about 40 deep and want to be very respectful of everybody's time. So what I'm going to do right now is get this class recording, and we are good. Jerome from Georgia, Robert from Massachusetts just joined. Welcome. So you should all be here tonight for How to Fast Track Your Recruiting for Seniors. I am your host. My name is Ryan Summers. I am one of the senior recruiting coordinators here at NCSA, and I'm going to take a quick stop real quick. Somebody says that they cannot hear me. Can somebody please type and just let me know that they can hear me? Because someone says that they can't, and as long as one person tells me they can hear me. Okay, awesome. Perfect. That's all I needed. Somebody said we can hear. Okay, so who was it that said they couldn't? Michelle, type to her. Log out and back in. Turn the audio up. Everyone else can hear me. All right. Perfect. So, like I said, I am one of our senior recruiting coordinators here at NCSA. You can see 4 logos right there of schools, companies that I've been associated with. One on the bottom left there, Linden State College, where I competed in 2 sports actually in college back in the day. The University of Vermont, where I worked in their athletic department for probably 5-6 years. You should see Northwestern University just north of Chicago in Evanston, Illinois, where I went to grad school. And then NCSA, where I have been going on almost 5 years. So this is all about you tonight, not about me, but obviously want you to know who I am or who you all are on here with. I see somebody else in here says Kagan from Nevada. Welcome, Kagan. So a little bit about my background. I was a 2-sport athlete in college and co-captain. We were one of the top 25 teams in the country when I was a sophomore for basketball, and I was recruited at higher levels of college for both sports. But I ultimately found the right home at a Division III school. And that's something we're going to talk about tonight, is making sure that you're being realistic, you're targeting the right schools for the right reasons. I worked with Division I athletes as an advisor for several years at the University of Vermont, like I said. Worked with their women's basketball program, their men's hockey program, and I was a college basketball play-by-play and color commentator for a company called the Northeast Sports Network, and graduated from Northwestern University with a master's in athletic administration, and I've been one of the recruiting directors here for going on 5 years. So before we do too much else, I want you all to know who is NCSA. Some of you are probably very familiar. I'm sure a lot of your coaches have suggested that you reach out to us and at least post a basic presence on here. Some of you might not be as familiar. Just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So this is by far the largest recruiting organization in the world, NCAA approved for going on 17 years now. There's 300 plus college recruiting coordinators and specialists like myself, nearly 600 employees. There's a huge, huge staff here on the tech side, on the digital side, making sure that you guys are connecting with the right schools for the right reasons and not just aimlessly emailing and reaching out to college coaches, which can be very, very frustrating. And a lot of you are getting advice right now to just email aimlessly. And you want to have it a little bit more streamlined than that, kind of like applying for jobs. You don't want to just send your application to any old employer. You want to send it to a place that's actually going to be a good fit for you. So that's a big, big part of what this website is for. There's 41,000 plus active college coaches for 29 NCAA sports using this website. So it's twofold. It's not just you sending information. College coaches daily logging into this website, setting up their preferences on what it is they're looking for in a student athlete. And if you match that, it makes it a lot easier for them to find you. Okay, 3,000 plus roster openings sent to us last month. Okay, so what that means is a coach sends us exactly what it is they're looking for by roster opening. Say it's a quarterback for football, a catcher for softball. They let us know exactly what it is they're looking for academically, athletically. 5 million plus student athlete profile views last year. 100,000 athletes have committed to compete in college in their sport since the day NCSA started. And the average reported last year is about $17,000 in scholarship and financial aid. So that's not just athletic money, that's all an entire financial aid package. But that's the big goal for a lot of you is let's find a school where you're going to be able to compete and obviously get some school paid for. Now, you guys are all probably in a pretty unique scenario right now as seniors. Obviously, we're not early to the process if we're on here tonight, but you're also not too late. You're going to hear me say that about 10 more times tonight. You are not too late. You just need to know what to be working on. Okay. So the topics for tonight. First, foremost, you are a student. Student comes first in the phrase student athlete. We're going to go over the academic side of things. Number two, recruiting education, best practices for getting coaches to take interest in you as a prospect in general, and using the basic NCSA site to create leverage. For some of you, we can go over the premium aspects of NCSA. Everyone should at least be on the basic site. Some choose to upgrade. We can go over qualifications for that. That is completely up to you. Yes, there is an opportunity for you guys to look into additional help here, but it's not a requirement. It does not hurt our feelings. There's nothing to hide. You're not going to find it on our website because there are so many variations. You want to make sure that there's something for every family from all demographics to make sure that, that there's something every parent can do for their kid. Again, that is not a requirement to be on the basic site, just like the website LinkedIn. For those of you that are familiar, you can at least have a basic presence. It's better than nothing, and you're all going to at least want to do that. And what we do is we set up what's called a recruiting assessment for you, which I'll come back to again and again tonight. And that is an individualized phone call for your family to learn about your student athlete and give you guys some action steps, what types of schools to be talking to, what your video needs to look like, what your emails need to sound like. Because one of the most frustrating things, especially if there's some parents that are on here, is looking at your kid's face when they're not getting emails back and you know that they're talented enough to be hearing from schools, okay? At the end, I'm going to open it up for a Q&A session. So again, that should be plenty for tonight right there. What I want to do, first of all, student athletes that are on here, please type into the chat box, me, if you are on here tonight because you truly believe that you have the ability to compete in college and you're trying to figure out where you fit in. Go ahead and type me. For the student athletes that are on here, go ahead and type in me if you truly think that you are somebody that has the ability to compete at the college level. Awesome. A lot of you, like I would have thought. Okay. So for the parents that are on here tonight, if you are on here because you are the parent of a student athlete and you're trying to avoid the nightmare of paying full tuition for college and you're trying to learn what steps you need to be taking as a parent, type in parent, please. I want to see what the makeup is of parents tonight. Type in parent. That's actually pretty much half and half tonight. That's awesome. Okay. A lot of times it's very student heavy. We got a lot of parents on here tonight. That's fantastic. Very cool. Okay. So now what you guys should see in here, the next thing I'm going to have you type, and then I'm going to ask you to stop typing afterwards, I have two things that you can categorize yourself as. Current prospect. You're hearing from college coaches, not just admissions. It doesn't mean you're just getting all the flyers because you went online one night and just emailed a bunch of schools and signed up for their flyers, but you're actually hearing from college programs. You're taking some visits, you're trying out, you're getting feedback on your video and emails from coaches, you're trying to leverage scholarships. That's a current prospect. So go ahead and type CP if you would, if that is you. And then late prospect, no video yet, no communication with college programs, unsure where you fit in, and you want schools to contact you. You don't know who to be contacting. Perfect. Okay. So here's what you're going to do next. Remember what you typed. I'm going to have instructions for you at the end of this. If you typed in CP, current prospect, or LP, late prospect. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to ask you all to do, please do not type anything else until I ask you to at the very end of this. I'm going to open it up for a Q&A session. Most likely, I'm going to cover some of the stuff that you might have had questions about, so I hope you all grab a pen and paper tonight. But what we're going to do now is get through the presentation. I don't want to stop for everybody's individual questions until we get to the very, very end, okay? So this is the biggest message for you all. Somebody said something. I thought this was for people with NCSA profiles. Jerome, it is. If you have an NCSA profile, this is for you. I'm not sure if you're on a basic level yet, if you've had your assessment or not. If you already are part of the NCSA family, if you're on the premium part of the website, we can certainly give you that contact information. This is for a lot of families that are just learning about NCSA, though. Certainly going to be a lot of good information on you, though, okay, or here for you. So, biggest message for you guys all. You're not too late. There's plenty of schools that are going to be recruiting all the way up until next August. However, your strategy and your focus needs to change today if you are truly committed to competing in college, okay? If you typed LP, you're not too late, but you need to get an idea of where you stand and what is realistic. Scheduling a recruiting assessment will give you that perspective. We will learn a little bit more about who you are, give you the feedback that you guys need as far as what you need to be working on in October, in November, or December. How many emails you need to be getting out, to make sure that you have options and you're not just leaving it, up to chance. This isn't just about getting picked up. This isn't recess where you get picked up for a team. This is college. This is where you're going to get your education, where you're going to have your professional connections for the rest of your life. And for parents that are on here, this is your kid's future. And if they want athletics to be a part of that in college, that's a really, really big deal for a lot of kids. And it really overlaps when they go into the workforce someday. When they're trying to get jobs, just a lot of the skills that they're going to learn. So it's a really important process. Some of you might be a little bit late, but again, you don't need to panic. You're not too late. Just the strategy needs to change. If you type CP, ask yourself, why are you on this webinar? You're not doing your victory lap right now. Why do you not have offers? Were you late getting your name out there? Were you not targeting realistic schools? Were you just saying, I want to go to Duke and Kentucky if you're a basketball player? I hope that works out for everybody. But it usually doesn't, and you need to make sure that you know what's realistic. Were you not sure where the best fit academically and athletically was? And that's a big thing too. Scheduling a recruiting assessment is something I'm going to suggest to probably most of you tonight. And again, like I was saying, there's no financial commitment to that. On our end, the advantage is this is the biggest website, biggest pool of talent for college coaches to be able to pull from, and we want to keep it that way. It doesn't hurt our feelings one way or the other if you need the additional help, but there's a ton of it, and it's going to help you guys a lot in leveraging your students' ability to get some school paid for and find the right schools. So, number one, academics. Preparing for your eligibility. Most of you are probably familiar with that blue circle there that says NCAA. There's another governing body for college athletics called the NAIA. Both of them have their own eligibility center. You might hear somebody that's pretty old school calling this the clearinghouse, okay? All that this is, it's mandatory for you before you go take business to schools, but all it's doing is making sure that you are what's called a qualifier, that you are meeting your core requirements in the classroom, and that you've never been compensated. You've never been paid to compete in your sport. That's all that does. That does not mean that you have an identifiable recruiting profile for college coaches to come and find you and seek you out, okay? That is the biggest misconception. This is very important to do before you go take visits, but this is not like your online resume for coaches to be able to identify everything that they need to know about you. That's what the NCSA website is now doing. And again, I use the analogy of this being like the LinkedIn for student athletes, okay? This is the biggest resume holder where a coach can identify where they can come watch you play, contact your coach, look at your video, consider your grades, and if you're someone that is going to be able to compete for their program, before they ever come take a look at you live. So very, very different, but very important. The eligibility centers, I have the phone numbers, the websites here, and anybody that wants a copy of these, I can absolutely send you an email of this afterwards as well. Okay, so luckily there's something called the sliding scale. This might be a refresher for some of you. Some of you might already know this. Some of you don't. For those of you that are really good test takers or struggle with test taking, the good news is when you're applying to schools and you're trying to get through to the admissions offices, when they're looking at your grades and your test scores, this is something that they use to be able to determine, if you are going to be able to get into the school, number one, and what they can get, what they can give you in financial aid. Now, the biggest thing I cannot stress enough, if you are still taking your ACTs and SATs at your age, I know some of you are, you're kind of throwing up a Hail Mary right now, consider using some sort of a test prep. We suggest Princeton Review. Princeton Review wanted to partner with NCSA a couple years ago when they saw what this was doing for student athletes. And ACTs, SATs are such an important part of how you're going to get school paid for, what schools you're going to get into. And a great example of that, I was talking to a dad a little while ago whose daughter was going to Florida State to play soccer. And in her offer letter, they told her to get her ACT up one more point, go back and retake it, because they could knock another $6,000 off of her tuition that year if she got it up one more point. She had a 24 and they required a 25. So that's how big of a difference it can be. That's a really extreme example. But for those of you that are kind of on the fence about going and retaking your tests, typically you're going to do better, and it can be the difference of a lot of money. Okay. Somebody on here, guys, again, please, if you would, make sure to hold any questions till the very end. And yes, Michelle, thank you. This might be an outdated picture. You're absolutely right. But it's more or less there just for the example. Do not use this as a cop-out, everybody. There are some schools that are what's called test optional, okay? Again, for some of you that are throwing up a Hail Mary, there are some schools that do not require that. I do not suggest it, but I do want you to know that that does exist, okay? And that was a link for that. Maximizing your financial aid. A lot of you, if you're already talking to schools, you're talking to the admissions processes, you can ask them for what's called an EFC. So for those of you that took direction to grab a pen and paper, write down those three letters, your expected family contribution. Just because you see what tuition says for in-state or out-of-state, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what your family's going to be expected to contribute. So make sure you're asking these questions. What is our EFC? And they can get that back to you. Seniors, you can ask coaches for what's called an early financial aid read. So the big reason that I'm posting this information here is you start to get an idea of how tedious the admissions process is even going to be. And this is why the recruiting process needs to start earlier, so that you know what schools you're even going to be applying to. You guys, again, at your age, should be doing your victory lap, but a lot of you aren't. We're playing catch up, and that's absolutely fine. You're in the same boat, obviously, as a lot of other people. There's 72 people on here right now. Know the financial aid policy at the college. I think there's a few international students on here, so that's a great example, is a lot of schools have, just a side pot of need-based aid for international students. You want to make sure that you are asking your coaches to get in touch with the admissions officers and figure out, all different ways that you can get some school paid for. That is the biggest thing that NCSA is able to help you all with, is to guide you through all this, navigate what schools realistically are you going to be able to get some school paid for. What's your EFC going to be? Because you have a team of about 600 people that work here that were all former college coaches or athletes, and you should all have leverage. You are a student athlete. You should not be asking about walking on. You should have leverage. You should be somebody that a school wants at their program, and if not, you're looking at the wrong schools, okay? So to start the recruiting education, you see something at the bottom there that I just touched upon, is walking on an option. Yes, but I don't think it's a very good option. Again, if you have some value to yourself, if you are a good student and you are a good athlete, you should be getting some school paid for, regardless if it's athletic money or not. A great example of that, I had a teammate in college at a Division III school that he was going on about $20,000 a year in academic money, and there was no way that he was a scholar, but the school really wanted him to come to school there as an athlete and as a student. So he had a lot of leverage. That's a really, really important thing. And again, that's what NCSA is really helpful in helping you guys create. Does hearing from a few schools mean I'm being recruited? It means there's a couple schools that know you exist, but It's really obvious if you're being recruited. Again, I'm assuming that probably a lot of you that are on here tonight are not being seriously recruited yet. That can change very quickly, but you need to be communicating with the right schools. You need to know where to start, who to target. Hearing from a few schools means, again, that there's a couple schools that have you on the radar, but there's a lot of schools out there that offer your sport that would probably love to know about you that don't yet, if there's a couple schools that are talking to you or are interested. So here's some perspective. Where should you be right now as a senior, if not committed to a school? You should be deciding between your top 5 to 10 realistic schools that you know there's a mutual interest between you and the coaching staff. Depending on the sport, wrestling, field hockey, I mean, there's some sports that are much, much smaller, where there might only be 300 to 500 options, but there's a lot of sports out there that, there's 1,000 to 1,800 schools that offer your sport, and you should have contacted minimum 25 schools by now. For the bigger sports, at least 50. Doing that on your own can be really tedious. I'm not suggesting that you apply to all those schools, but it's usually 1 in every 10 is going to be a perfect fit for you and for them. So when you think about that, what we ideally suggest to you, if you start this when you're supposed to, freshman, sophomore year, you can contact 100 schools, and now you're going to end up with probably 10 really, really good options for you to be picking from. But it takes time, it takes effort, and this is not to scare you guys away. Again, you are not too late. I'm going to say that again at the bottom of this slide. But if you're doing that on your own, it's a very tedious task. You can do that in a matter of minutes using your account on here. So you should all be very confident in the questions you are asking when you're on the phone with college coaches. A very good family friend of mine, he found out about this website, and then he was even more delighted to find out that I was one of the recruiting directors here. Signed his kid up a couple of years ago, and the biggest thing that he's taken away is just how confident his son is when he's on the phone with a college coach. We do a lot of the mock conversations, the practice phone calls with a student athlete, so he knows what questions to be asking a coach. That's really, really important. And if you're the parent of a student that's really, really timid, they don't really know what questions to ask, but you know that they have the ability, that's a really, really big advantage for you. You should still be improving and updating your film. You should be gaining an understanding of your target school's financial aid policies. So again, a lot of you're not too late, but if you've not started doing any of these things, all the more reason you've got to get your recruiting assessment in so that you know where to begin, what schools to be targeting, and at least activate your page on here, okay? Here are some very, very important dates to know. When are you technically a recruitable athlete by NCAA standards now? The first day of class your freshman year. Except for men's basketball, it's 7th grade now, as crazy as that sounds. So it starts way long ago. A lot of you, again, you're seniors. This is not to scare you, but I want you to understand that a lot of your competition has been very proactive in getting their name out to schools. So we're playing a little bit of catch up right now, but again, there's plenty of time. June 15th, following your sophomore year, Division II schools are typically the first that can start contacting you through electric correspondence, email, text, social media. But what happens with a lot of families is that big date, September 1st of junior year, they are told nothing can happen until then. Coaches can't even contact us until then. True, they cannot pick up the phone and call you until then. But when you see all these stories of all the kids that are committing to school earlier and earlier and earlier, what's happening is what's called indirect contact. This website is a huge reason why. A lot of coaches can now identify where you're going to be playing so they can come watch you. They can contact your coach and say, have that student give me a call Monday night. I'll be in my office at 8 o'clock. And as long as you're the one dialing the phone, they can contact or they can talk to you all night long about recruiting. They just can't dial you. So that's the biggest thing that people get caught up on. And if you have coaches still giving you that advice, don't do anything until junior year. Give them my phone number. I'm happy to kind of walk them through what's going on nowadays. So early signing period for seniors coming up here in a couple months, mid-November. Regular signing period for seniors right around tax day. And there is going to be recruiting going on right up until next August. But if you're going to wait until next August to get serious about this, you're not that serious about it. So again, just got to change our approach a little bit tonight. My favorite slide on here, and a lot of parents I know appreciate this one. Social media. Understand the right way and the wrong way to use this. Clean it up, every one of you. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is you have on here. Sometimes you might be posting stuff that you think is really funny. You get a lot of likes from your friends. Great. It's the first place a lot of college coaches are going to go to find out what they want to know about you outside of your NCSA profile or any kind of professional resume that you have. They're going to type your name in. They're going to see if they see anything they don't like, and that is the quickest way that kids can lose scholarship opportunities. You don't even have to be holding one of those red solo cups. If you're in the background of somebody that posted that picture and they tag you, and you're at a party or you're at something, somewhere that you shouldn't be doing something you shouldn't be doing, it's one of the first ways a coach can identify that you're someone they don't even want to waste their time on because they want to keep their jobs. Okay. If your parents don't approve of it, if your grandparents wouldn't approve of it, go into your accounts tonight, tomorrow, and clean it up as soon as possible. It's not all bad, but it's one of the fastest ways that a coach can take a huge opportunity away from you, and you've got the rest of your life to post stupid stuff on your profile. And I can't emphasize that enough to clean it up. A really great example of that, I do a lot of work with our social media here at NCSA, and I'm more than happy to connect with some of you, give you feedback. I was in an NFL forum on Instagram a couple of years ago, and I posted something about my favorite team, and some young man started cursing me out, saying a lot of really nasty stuff. And so I looked at his Instagram profile, and it says on there, men's basketball recruit class of 2019. And I got kind of a kick out of that because I'm thinking to myself, I'm probably one of the last people that you want to be doing this to. So I direct messaged him. He realized who I was, and he's very apologetic. Felt really, really bad about that. I ended up contacting his parents. We had a great conversation, and I have a good relationship now about it. But it's a great learning lesson for a lot of you. But again, social media, it is so important to clean that up. I hope that resonates with you now, and you don't have to go through a really tough learning experience as to why that's so important. But it's not all bad. There is some good that can come out of that. One thing you can do, in your Instagram or on your Facebook, post your NCSA, a link to your profile. Start following some of your favorite coaches that, maybe you are researching their school. They started following you on your NCSA account. They're interested in you. Maybe follow some of their stuff, like some of their stuff, and make it really easy on them to find your NCSA page. That's a very good way to use social media at your age. Post some videos from your game last night, that sort of thing. Okay. When does the recruiting process start? It started a long time ago, okay? But again, you're not too late. Freshman year, sophomore year, as soon as you're on varsity, or if you're playing high-level club and you're just in a really competitive area and you couldn't crack varsity because it's maybe 1,000 kids in your class at a big 6A school, something like that, we get that. But you should have started getting organized when you're like a freshman or sophomore. Again. It's not too late, but there's definitely a lot of catch-up that you need to be doing. The good news is, probably 60% of schools are still going to be recruiting your class, 60 to 70%. That's a really good thing. That being said, if you're still hoping that Duke and North Carolina and the UConns and the Baylors of the world are still looking at you guys, you're hoping for someone to get an injury because they've already got their guys figured out, their ladies figured out junior year. Okay, so it starts earlier. For you all that are on here tonight, it has to start. You need to start taking proactive steps tonight, this week. Get moving, and I'm going to give you guys a lot of good stuff to try working on next once we know a little bit more about you. Okay, how do I get discovered? All right, playing on high profile, high exposure teams is great for getting in front of coaches if you know that the coaches that are going to be there are already interested in you. Way too many families say, our coach gets a lot of kids into college, so that's going to just take care of it for us. You're literally limiting yourself to the several schools that coach always sends kids to. There's probably 1,500 other schools out there that offer the sport that would be really interested in your kid that you're holding them back from. Your coach is a huge part of your recruiting process, but if they're telling you that they're doing it all for you, they're doing you a huge disservice because they're limiting you to just a few schools that they have connections with, and any of us that have coached at that level are guilty of doing that. Okay. How do you get discovered? You've got to have an online presence. We live in 2017. You're not going to fly around the country looking in local newspapers trying to find who's posting job ads. You're going to go online and look at job boards. Coaches go online to look and see what students match what they're looking for, and then they might come see you play live, but they're not going to waste their time just showing up. It's not like it used to be. Get that 1980s, 1990s thought process out of your head. It just doesn't work like that anymore, okay? You've got to have at least an online presence. How do coaches evaluate prospects? They're going to look at your profile. They're going to look at your video. They're going to set up their parameters so that only a kid, let's say I'm a baseball coach, I'm looking for a catcher. he needs to have a 3.6 GPA at least. I like to recruit in Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. I need a guy to be at least 6'2" behind the plate. 3 years of varsity experience, 3 years of travel experience. Show me your best matches. And that's how coaches use this. So once they've filtered through and they pull up a big list of kids that they might be interested in, now they're going to look at your video, they're going to look at your grades, they're going to call your coach. And if everything lines up, if it sounds like this is something that they might be interested in, they're going to start following your profile. You're on their watch list. Now you have some serious interest, okay? When a coach evaluates you, please keep this in mind. For any of you that play on a travel team or on a club team, and there are college coaches that are coming to watch, the tournament, they are in the parking lot. They are not just evaluating you between the lines in your playing arena. They are evaluating you the second they get out of the car. They are evaluating how you treat your sister, your brother, your parents. If they're going to invest money in you for 4 years as a recruit, you better be someone that they want in their program. They're not just evaluating you as an athlete. They are evaluating you as a person, and that is some of the first things that they're going to ask your coach is, what kind of kid is it? What are their parents like? Because you're dealing with the parents for 4 years too, okay? Becky, I see something on here. Hang on to that. I'm gonna give you instructions later on how you can do that, okay? So how do coaches evaluate? Now, where am I qualified to play? This is probably one of the most important slides on here. Again, a lot of us, we grow up dreaming of Kentuckys, Dukes, Baylors, UConns, and that's wonderful. I hope that works out for all of you, but it most likely won't if you're still on here as a senior. Not to squash dreams or anything. There's a ton of opportunity for you to compete in college. There might be some schools that are a little bit late that are lower D1s, but for the most part, D1 right now, you would know if you're going there, okay? That doesn't mean you can't transfer up at some point, if you prove that you can compete, but that still leaves 80% of the opportunities to compete in college. Division II, wonderful level, huge competition, equivalency level is what they call it, so they can chop up the little bit of athletic money that they have amongst the rest of the team. Big part of that's got to come from you academically and finding other ways to get some school paid for. Division III, a lot of us, you're absolutely right, they don't have athletic money, but do not sneer at this because a lot of them tend to be some of the better schools anyways, the private schools that have a ton of academic money that even goes unused sometimes. And a lot of times a coach, if they want you bad enough, they can come up with the dollars for you to come compete, get some other ways to get school paid for. As much academic money as as you can think of, but you got to be targeting the right schools for the right reasons that actually have a need for you. And again, that's what NCSA helps you guys identify. NAIA, again, a lot of you don't know, probably what that is. A lot of you do. But that's kind of in between Division II and Division III a lot of times as far as the competition level. But they do have athletic money, unlike Division III. They tend to be smaller schools for some of you that are struggling in the classroom a little bit. It's a wonderful, wonderful option. You guys should research more. And we'll, again, give you guys a lot to think about with your recruiting assessment, what types of schools you should be targeting once we know a little bit more about you. We can't just give the same advice to everybody because everybody's different. Junior college. More scholarship opportunities than any other level, 2-year schools, cheaper schools. College coaches love recruiting from junior college. So for a lot of you, that's a great option if you're not sure what you want to study. You just want to get your prerequisites out of the way, get some school paid for, go play for 2 years, and then try to transfer up. JUCO is a wonderful, wonderful level. And what the reputation was 20 years ago is not the same. Again, a lot of college coaches love to recruit JUCO kids. You've already proved that you can get it done in the classroom and in your playing arena. Okay. What is my coach's role? This is so important to understand. Your coach is a huge, huge part of your recruiting process. But for those of you that are relying on your coach to do it all for you, you got to think about what that means. Your coach is in charge and responsible of your entire future at that point. And that's just for sport. Wrong answer. Okay. Your coach should be a huge part. They're an advocate for you. They can help you with collecting your film, what your emails might want to sound like. But again, if you're putting it all in their hands, they're going to introduce you to the same 5, 6, 7 schools that they always send kids to, and there might be 1,500 out there that offer your sport. So that is what this website is for you to be able to pull up a list of 100, 150, 200 schools that match everything you're looking for academically and athletically, and then start narrowing it down geographically, school size, tuition size, so that you can come back to your coach and say, here's 20 schools that I know are a good fit. The coaches seem to be interested because they just started following my profile. They want to talk to you, and then you need to make sure that you're on the same page as your coach. Again, if you're playing for a high-level travel team and they're telling you that they're going to do it all for you, or that they handle all the recruiting, they're holding you back, and that's all there is to it. And again, that's not to discredit what they're doing. They are a huge part of your development as an athlete, but that should not be your entire plan for how you're going to communicate with college programs. Okay. You've probably heard the saying before, it takes a village to raise a child. It's the same with recruiting. It takes a village, your high school coach, your club coach, your private coach, parents, everybody needs to be on the same page. Because if I'm a college coach and I call your high school coach, I call your club coach, and they sound confused that little Johnny wanted to play in college. They sound confused when I ask them, what types of schools you guys are looking at already. All that tells me is this family's not really prepared. And especially as a senior, you guys all want to be on the same page. So that's what the recruiting assessment is for, is to get you guys all moving in the right direction, regardless to how you want to use the website, on the basic site or on any level of the premium. Okay. Biggest thing for you all, complete and verify your NCSA profile. If you've started a profile on here already and you haven't filled any of it out, get on it. It's quick. It prompts you of everything. You log in, it asks you for your picture, your position, your parents' contact, eventually your video. It doesn't have to be perfect for your recruiting assessment, and I cannot emphasize that enough. A lot of you think you have to have everything perfect. This is not an overall talent evaluation. What we do is we learn who you are, what you need to be working on, and give you action steps. So if you don't have video yet, that's fine. We'll teach you what your parents need to be taking, or what your coach needs to be taking of you. But try to get it up to about 50% before the recruiting assessment. We'll go over that again here in just a second. But complete and verify your profile. Verifying means you've had your recruiting assessment. We talked to you. We know that you're going to keep this updated. You're going to make good use of college coaches' time if they're interested in you. Okay? So, building your profile. Again, try to get up to 50% before your recruiting assessment. It'll probably take you 5-10 minutes. You don't have to panic and spend all week going out trying to get the perfect film put together. All you need to do is get in there, go to My Information, go to Edit Profile, and it'll tell you a percentage. Every time you add something, it gives you another 5-10%, something like that. Try to get up to 50% before your recruiting assessment to make good use of your parents' time before the call, so we actually have something to give you feedback on. Okay? And this is not public information. Any of your contact information, anything like that, is private. This is just used for college coaches. You can absolutely Google your profile and you'll find like your position and the picture and that sort of thing. But for the rest of it, it is private. Okay. NCSA's premium site. What I'm going to do now is share my screen. If I can remember how to do that. There we go. And I want you all to see what a premium profile looks like. So this is the example for a soccer player, okay? So you see on here, it shows profile views, follows, email opens, and searches. So this is a list for our demo guy. He was a real student athlete, but it shows you all the schools out there that were looking at his profile, viewing his profile, what percentage of a match he is for what that coach is looking for, and that school is for what he's looking for. It shows you how many times he's come up in a search similar to what that coach is looking for. It shows you if they're actually opening your emails, and it shows you if that coach has chosen to follow your profile. So they've opted into getting updates every time you've updated stuff. What this is doing, everybody, is opening doors for you. It just makes sure that every school out there that should know about your kid knows about your kid. This is not guaranteeing scholarship money. This is not guaranteeing that your student is going to use this. But if they're going to, that's when we suggest the additional help. Again, there's a ton of variations to make sure there's something for everybody, so you don't have to panic about that. But at the very least, you guys should have a basic presence on here if you're serious about competing in college. And if this isn't getting you excited, I don't know what does. This literally shows you every school out there that might be interested in your student athlete, how high of a match you are for them and they are for you, and then all the activity that's going on with those schools. Okay, so this is a very extreme example. The most I've ever seen on here is a kid had 400 schools following him. All of you, by next spring, a goal should be, get 20 schools looking at you, 30 schools, because a lot of you right now, if you don't have any, and you know that you're better than that, you know that there's some schools that should be paying attention to you, all the more reason you should be on here. Okay, so now we're going to go to find colleges, and this is a parent's best friend. Before you get in the car and start driving all over and just asking your kid, do you like that campus? Do you like this campus? Because that's what my mom and dad used to do. You want it to be a little bit more streamlined than that. So let's say you are from the Northeast, Pennsylvania, New York, Maryland, New Jersey, that's where you want to go to school. And you want to study journalism. Now, we just pulled up every school that offers men's soccer and your major, and then we take a look and see what schools you are a high match for. So this is obviously a very smart, talented kid. It shows Columbia University being his highest match within that region, okay? But it's going to be very honest once we know a little bit more about who you are, what you're looking for, what you're capable of, what that school's looking for you. It's very honest about what schools you should even be targeting, okay? So that is the Find Colleges section, which you all have access to that. It's really fun to play around with, again, before you start, aimlessly going out, visiting schools. This is one of the biggest advantages that you have with NCSA is roster openings. So if you're looking at this right now, you are seeing this correctly. Schools send us their roster openings, what position they're looking for. And this shows on here right now, 1,381 pages of roster openings. So you know what schools are looking for your position. And when you click on it, it gives you, a lot of times it'll give you the details. The school's very specific about, a comment from the coach here, what they're looking for, the minimum GPAs to get in, what they need for an ACT or SAT to even consider coming to their school. So your kid knows what schools to be targeting and why. And parents that are listening to this, what we see over and over with students that all of a sudden are a part of this program is they're doing a few extra push-ups. They're doing a little bit more in the classroom because it's a lot more realistic now. This isn't just the idea that I want to play in college. It's who do I contact? How do I do that? How do I get caught up? Okay, so that is just a couple of things that I wanted to show you. And I want to do one more thing here real quick. So I'm going to show you guys. Let's say we pick a school that we are extremely interested in. And let's say it is Michigan State. Okay, so then what happens is once you are someone that is able to contact them, you have access to that coach's inbox. So you know which school, let's say head coach, Coach Renzing, assistant coach, secretary, all three of them have an active account on here. Now you know who you're emailing, okay? But when you go to research these schools, this is one of the most impressive things, is you're going to be able to see on the side what students we've placed on those programs at that school. So for those of you out there that have any skepticism right now, I might have just squashed that, all right? Again, there's about 650 people that work here, and a lot of us have come to work here either because we use this as athletes or as coaches. We've seen what this does for student athletes. So that is the premium site. And again, a lot of you are going to say, what's the cost? There's 100 different variations to it. There's so many different variations to that part of it, and it's only if it even makes sense for you. Some families might tell us they're interested, and we'll tell them this isn't for you. Your student has way too limited of a search. Don't spend a penny on it. Some of you might get suggested to it. That's completely up to you, but at the very least, we will build you guys a do-it-yourself plan for what needs to happen next. Teach you how to use the basic site. Give you some ideas of what types of schools are realistic, what your video needs to look like, and that's what the recruiting assessment is. So for those of you that want to, take my contact information down. Again, I'm more than happy to connect with you on social media. You see my Twitter handle there, Instagram, which I do a lot with NCSA, and then my email address. And you are all going to want to write my email address down because that is part of your next instruction. My office line there's no extension. That is my direct line. If you guys want to take that down, I'll take another second here, take a sip of water so that you can jot that stuff down. And then your next steps. This is a very busy slide. Hopefully it's not too small. Please note in bold that says if you are with a parent right now. Okay, so we can't have a student athlete request a recruiting assessment, but what you can do is still shoot me an email with this information, and I will follow up with your parents. But if you're a parent right now, it's going to make sense for you to set up a recruiting assessment for your student athlete, like I would assume it would for most all of you that are on here. You're all serious about competing in college. This just gives you that direction. Again, no financial commitment to the call. At the very least, if all goes well, we'll activate your page, and now you have a live presence on here, which means coaches can find you as a match. Okay, they'll at least see your name come up when they type in what they're looking for. Versus right now, a coach could type your name in and find you if they knew who you were already. That's the biggest difference. So at least get that much done. And to do that, send me an email with the following information: your student athlete's full name, sport and graduation year, city, state, and high school, parent guardian's full names, parents' phone numbers, email address. And the biggest thing to help me out, there's one of me, and I'm guessing there's going to, total is probably about 80 to 90 of you tonight. Give me 2 options for a time that your families are usually available, like Wednesday nights are good or Sunday afternoons are good, whatever's going to work for you. The other thing that I did for you all is I put some available times up for grabs. So when you email me, and if you're on here tonight and you're not sending me this email to set up your recruiting assessment, I don't know how else to help you. That is your next step, is to send me this email with this information on here. And then I have on here some available times that I set aside just for people that are on this right now. You'll see there's some 10 p.m. slots. I'm obviously not doing that to anybody in the East Coast or Central Time. That's for West Coast families pretty much. But this is all, please note, in Central Time. So 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 10 p.m. On the East Coast, that's 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Okay, just be mindful of that. But that is your next step, is to send me that email right now. For the student athletes that are on here, certainly you can send me this information. Just CC a parent on it. I cannot schedule this for you unless there's a parent either CC'd or the parent emailed me. Okay. Otherwise, I am going to follow up with every one of you via phone. You'll all get a phone call from a number that looks like it's coming from Chicago, 312. You don't have to be scared of that. That's either me or one of our other recruiting coordinators getting back to you guys. Okay. So again, you should have all sent this over. It says email me at rsummers@ncsasports.org with that information. Student athletes, full name, sport, graduation year. You should all be 2018. There might be a couple exceptions on here. So that's absolutely fine. Just please indicate that. City, state, high school, parents' contact information, parents' names, and then give me 2 options, or you can select one of those on there and say, Ryan, Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central is great for us, and I'll make sure to reserve that for you. First come, first serve. The biggest thing with this call, we are setting up your preferences for what types of schools you want to more commonly come across your information. If there are 2 parents involved in where you're going to go to college, not just for your sports, but involved in where you're going to go to college, you'll want both of them on here. I know a lot of us aren't lucky enough to have both parents, but you might have an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent. Just make sure to be very mindful of everybody's schedule when you send me what times work for you, and I will do my best. Again, we're communicating with a couple thousand families a day. There's about 300 of us here, recruiting specialists, that schedule times, weeknights and weekends, to speak with families and give you guys each an hour to go over this and activate your pages for you. So just please be very, very mindful of that. So you should have all sent that in. Now let's open it up for Q&A. Becky, you were the first one saying I'd like to set up the recruiting chat for my senior soccer player, which is great. Becky, please still send me an email. I'm going to lose all of this information in this chat box. So please, please, please make sure, for her sake, that you send me this email. And that's the fastest way that I can get back to you. Again, if everybody could just please give me 24 hours, remembering there's one of me and a lot of you. So let's go ahead and open it up for Q&A right back in the chat box. Whatever questions you guys have, go ahead and fire away. I'll do this for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then, again, you should have all sent me that email. I know a lot of you are busy sending that over right now. How do you contact coaches? Gavin, can you be a little bit more specific? Are you asking how I do it, or how you do it, or how you do it through the NCSA website? Please be a little bit more specific. What kind of video should a cross-country runner post? Great question, Georgia. Cross-country, swimming, a couple other sports, basically those are time sports. You know, it's not as important to have the video. It's not bad, but it certainly is not going to be as important for you to have video. It doesn't hurt for a coach to be able to see, you know, your power, at different stages of your 5K, your start. Certainly that's not a bad thing, but it's not as important as, our baseball and our softball and our soccer players on here. Caitlin, you just sent me your email address. Again, I cannot emphasize this enough, everybody. You've got to email me. I'm going to lose this chat box. I'm not going to be able to see this anymore. Please don't expect me to do anything just through this chat box other than answer your questions like I'm doing right now. You've got to send me an email. Okay. What is the normal amount of time for a highlight video for a football player? Parker, great question. 5 minutes is what you should be shooting for. 20 to 25 clips, 5 minutes. That's pretty standard for a lot of different sports. It's just very different. That's a big part of your recruiting assessments. We'll get to know who you are and what your video should include, how to sequence it. Absolutely need to do that. How do I promote an injured player? Full recovery expected. Great question, John. Do you have footage, or does anybody have footage from before? If so, again, John, for sure, reach out about setting up a recruiting assessment. We'll give you guys the feedback. A lot of times coaches, are going to recruit based on projection once they know more about the competition your student athlete's been competing in. Really, really, really important. But video is king. Video is so important. So, obviously that's going to hold him back just a little bit. But at the same time, if there's video from before, that's going to really, really help. So let me see what else we have. How long would you have to pay for premium? Isaac, it really depends. Again, there's so many variations. Some families can do stuff in one installment. Some can, spread it out over 6, 12 months. I mean, it really depends. But it's so different for everybody, and there's nothing to hide. There's a ton of different variations. But certainly, once we know just a little bit more, we'll figure out what's best for your family, and if it even makes sense. Some families it doesn't hurt our feelings one way or the other. What if we don't know our exact stats? That's a great question. Stats are very helpful. Video is more important, Noah. So it's all about your video, being able to prove to a coach through video that you can help their program. Certainly stats, looking at the competition you're playing against is really, really important, but video is going to be more important. Okay. Let me see what else here. Just sent an email for my assessment. Sounds great, Becky. How often should I update my basketball highlight film? Great question. This is pretty universal for most sports that require a lot of video. Every 3 to 4 months, as crazy as that sounds, because otherwise you're showing a less good version of you. You're showing something from 3 months ago. You've probably improved. That's usually a rule of thumb. So probably a couple of times, before next spring, next summer. Let me see what else we have on here. Should we only? These are coming in so fast, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to keep up with everybody. Should we only set up videos from current games? Should it show a history of games? That's not a bad question, Becky. Again, we'll give you that feedback. I know you just sent me an email for your assessment. We'll get a better feel from that. Typically, you want it as current as possible, but if you have some really outstanding clips from before, there are some exceptions, without a doubt. Let me see. These are coming in so fast, everybody. If I don't get to all your questions, then again, you should have all emailed me anyways. That should really, really be the easiest way for me to get back to you. We're looking to see if specific schools have D1 lacrosse openings for the upcoming year. Is this site accurate to find this? Stan, absolutely. Make sure to send me an email, Stan. I'll follow up with you. We can go over the lacrosse. It's obviously a much smaller, a much smaller sport than a lot of others as far as opportunities. But this will absolutely help give you some ideas of what schools are looking for, your specific position, and then get into the academic side and all the other things that are important to you in a school. Susan, other than the financial aid questions you mentioned, what other pertinent questions should be addressed to coaches? That is what we were working with you guys this whole time. So it's kind of a step-by-step process. Right now, if you're just introducing yourself, you need to be figuring out, what other roster openings there are, what types of kids they're recruiting right now, what there's a need for, what kind of money that they have. But we'll go over all that with you again in your assessment to give you guys that, exact answer. It's going to be different for everybody. What if you got a notice from a school, but you didn't get a call back? That is something that's going to happen to a lot of you. And the biggest thing, the biggest thing for you right now is to make sure that you're targeting the right schools. And again, that's what will help you guys set up is just a realistic idea of who to be reaching out to, because you don't want to waste your time reaching out to schools that don't have a need for your position, or you just frankly don't qualify, or you're overqualified. Any advice for making a highlight video on your own? Yeah, you can do YouTube. YouTube's a place, certainly you can post to it, and you can post it right on your NCSA profile. I'm not sure what sport this is for, Austin. For basketball, I know crossover is great. Huddle is something that a lot of schools are going to have you working with anyways. A lot of coaches have you doing anyways. So that's not a bad thing. I'm going to get time for maybe one more here, and then I'm going to revert everything to emails. Michelle says he sent personal letters to all the Arizona schools and only one responded. Yep. So there might not be a ton of interest, and not that he's not good enough, but they just don't know about him yet, or that he's even a high fit. So that's why you want to get the assessment done so that he has a matching percentage with each of these schools. And now when they hear from him and it says in their subject line that he's an 88% match, he's a 92% match for what they've set up, they take that a lot more seriously. We had a dad that told us that he took an entire month off from work to email every coach in the country at the Division I level and all the coaches he could find on their staff, and he only heard back from 3 schools, all of which said, we'll keep you in mind. That can be really frustrating. That doesn't mean nobody's interested. It just means that they're hearing from somebody that they've never expected to hear from. They've never heard of you. They don't know why they're hearing from you. And a lot of coaches won't even open that, unfortunately. They get that from way too much. That's why they've set up these accounts on here so that they can just hear from the kids they want to hear from. Okay. Becky, thank you for your time tonight. Eager to set up my daughter's profile in more colleges. Absolutely, Becky. So hopefully you emailed me. Again, I don't know how else to help you all if you joined tonight and you didn't send me an email, but you should have all sent that to me. rsummers@ncsasports.org. Your students' contact information, the schools, the teams you play for, parents' contact information, and then what a good time is for you. And I will do my best to get you guys in somewhere. And then once I pick the time, I'm going to email you guys back here tonight a little bit. Becky, when do we get access to the site? As soon as your page is active. So that is with the recruiting assessment. I will email you guys all back a little bit. So if you can, maybe watch for your emails here for the next hour. I'll try to email you all back tonight as best as I can. If I do pick a time for you and get you in somewhere, I will follow that up with a meetings detail email that has 3 or 4 short videos. Takes about 4 minutes to get through. That just explains how to prepare. You want both parents, if possible, in front of the computer at that time on speakerphone, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. I hope this was really helpful. Again, you're not too late. Look forward to talking to a lot of you here coming up. Talk to you soon. Bye.